Well, here's an interesting fact. I'm trying to properly articulate this notion. I go about and I've used to go to the churches. I used to do the street preaching thing and all of it. You know. It just ended horribly with the crazy cult out of California, Arizona. These blue fire people. And I'm just still trying to get to the point of this, which is kind of invalid or benign to a point. But sometimes to get to the actual tangible side of things, or intangible side of things, you have to clear out all the bullshit. I've seen no one online talking about the Arckayne in a direct, open source way. I see a lot about the cult, which just means hidden. I see a lot about esoteric, which just means extension. But not about the Arckayne, the lost knowledge, lost wisdom, forgotten in the sands of time. There's a lot of it that shows up in fiction. We must know that we as a species, as a community, as a planet, we must know that everything that is here already, anything you can see, is only half the story. Now, if I were to abbreviate this, as I've tried to bring it to a church format, and that's what it's down to, is a format that's understandable, which is why a lot of the Arckayne ends up in fiction. On the church format, sorry, this German reasoning, it comes back around. If it doesn't come back around, it's not a complete thought. Unlike American thinking that is straight lines. Anyway, to continue. To the church, they have their duality. They have part of the creation that rebelled, that wishes to be its own god, all of this other nonsense. You've got the Jesus versus Satan scenario, which isn't the same as Shaitan, and definitely not the same as Lucifer. Lucifer, you have to go through the back translations, the roots of these words. Shaitan, you have to go back to the roots of these words. Satan, and you have to go back to the roots of these things. Satan was an interpretation of Pan. Pan was the forest god of fertility and protection. This was of the pagan side of things, and shared image between all of the old Celtic, Visigoth, Druids, and hell, even Slavic cultures. Similar beings appear actually across the entire globe on that. Everyone's getting stuck on this alien bit. That's still in the tangible world. The tangible world can be so easily fooled. Because it's only what you can see and feel, right? What you can smell. The intangible are things like love, hate, emotion. That's on the edge of the intangible. Things you can't hold. Things you can't touch. But things that affect life, that affect tangible. That's just one example, though. This one example is not enough. Emotions, feelings, their source matters. There's a loss of science here, where humanity started in its understanding, that even gave birth to language and writing. mathematics. Now, to really understand differential between these, you have to almost forget everything you know. Knowledge, for instance, can mislead. The more you know, the more you don't know that you know. The common misconception is knowledge has an end. It does not. The more light you shine, the larger the radius of darkness becomes. It doesn't go away. You can't fill the darkness that fills the void. You can't. You can't fill it with drugs, you can't fill it with food, you can't fill it with these it's a grippy desire, wants, and sedation. These are all still intangibles, mind you, that I'm speaking of. Desire is an intangible. Self is an intangible. Non-self is outside of this. Non-being. You see, the entire history of this whole building and every brick scientifically exists in its time continuum. Its entire existence. From the very dust it was made from. Down to the point where it was made a brand new brick, to the decay that it is now as it becomes dust in the wind, and it returns to dust. These are basic concepts that the ancients knew, so to speak. So, once you get aside from all of this tangible, intangible, you can start to see the little bubble it fucking fits in, the expanding one. I don't know what modern day signal this is. I don't care. I know what it represents. The circle and each vector expanding outward. Unfortunately, it seems that the people's minds have gotten too stuck in the gutter these days as well. It starts younger these days. I can't believe it. It makes me feel old. Do you understand that coming to adulthood is precipitation? And kids are now... Children getting pregnant at 13, at 9. They're reaching adulthood at a very young age now. The same as it was in ancient times, when people lived no longer than 35 years, maybe 40, and were already gray at that time. Time was short. Now time is longer. But as it has expanded outward, the recourse has come back smaller. That anti-wave comes back in. It's similar to the yin-yang. The Tao Te Ching expresses this. The further out you go, the more you have to come back. The higher you go, the lower you fall. These are very difficult consciations to observe. When everyone thinks that the sky is the limit, the sky is not the limit. Center can move without moving, effectively. Center is not ground. Ground is just a level plane. If the level ground breaks, center remains the same. Without center is nothing, and you become nothing. Now, doing it by will, by choice, intangibles again, you can equally be this without being it. But to do so uneducatedly, or to do so because of outer conciliations, or perhaps even inner conciliations, is effectively the loss of being, non-being itself. Both are gone. As I said, nothing. And to do so without the depreciation or perceptive concentration, in other words, not being aware of the consequence, is to become lost. But if you do so knowing what you're fucking doing, or understanding what you're doing, and wise of what you're doing, and you remove all of those for clarity, then it's an entirely different state of being and non-being at the same time. Then tangible and intangible become the arcane. You see that the energy in simple objects is transferred to other objects indefinitely. And this supposed division vanishes, and you get vision of all that there is and is not. Once you see what is not, you can start to create something new. In the current format of society, everyone's just kind of stuck on, we already got wood, we already got bricks, we got concrete, what do we build with it, or anything. There's other things, there's new things, outside of knowledge, that understanding just barely touches. And unfortunately, in these days, it is ignored. But there's a yearning to return to it. And that's noted in the youth as well. It's noted in all of our youth. When all of us were young, and while the youth are youth. The fact that there's something more to be made, something more to be found, something more to be seen, is what pushes. Yes, as you can see, for some crazy reason, the video cameras flip with the not trespassing being backwards. I have no idea why. I think it's because the front, and I'm going to take an educated guess, I normally use thinking very vaguely, because when you think you can't be wrong. But most likely this front camera is acting like a mirror, which is quite interesting, because what we have is a mirror that points through